This video is on sexual harassment. Let's talk about sexual harassment. How do we define it? Sexual harassment is any unwanted sexual advance. Let me repeat, any unwanted sexual advance. In some circumstances, we could add any unwanted and repeated sexual advance. Okay, now let's look at the categories of sexual harassment and then talk a bit about it. Okay, there are three categories. Generally, one we would call quid pro quid, or the old-fashioned name was the proposition. This is where the boss says to the secretary, if you want to keep a job, you have to have sex with me. Where the teacher says to the student, you want an A, you got to come to my cabin. This is the idea that a person's employment or grade or what have you is dependent on doing a sexual favor for this person. And this is type of sexual harassment. We call it the proposition, quid pro quid. And I think many people in the Me Too movement have pointed this out, that this was occurring where they felt like they had to sort of have sex or put up with sexual touching and harassment in order to keep their jobs or get a promotion. There are two other categories, and these get to be interesting. A second one would be physical contact, and this is talking about unwanted physical contact. Now, this doesn't have to mean physical contact that's limited to, grabbing a person's breast or a person's butt or crotch. We're talking about physical contact that includes that, but also would include other kinds of physical contact that's unwanted. And that might be a hug. It might be a hand on the shoulder, a kiss on the cheek. In other words, if it's unwanted, it could be considered sexual harassment. Now, we got to talk about this a bit, because in this case, we might want to at times add in unwanted and repeated. And let me give you an example. Let's say I go up to this woman, okay, she's working for me, and I see her, and I'm happy to see her because maybe she's been out sick, or something, and I give her a hug. I put my arm around her, and she lets me know she doesn't want me to do it. And all I was doing was trying to greet her. If I stop right then and say, hey, I'm really sorry, I didn't know I offended you, won't do it again, many people would say it's not sexual harassment because it wasn't repeated. I didn't know I was offending the person. Now, this may not be the case when we're talking about physical contact, in which I go up to my employee and I grab her butt, and no, that sexual contact would be considered harassment just the one time it occurs. So this is where we look at the idea that in some cases it would be repeated. And we have to be aware of the fact that sometimes there is physical contact that people don't want, but the person who initiates the contact just didn't realize that was the case, and they were not doing it in a sexual way or in a way to make the person feel uncomfortable. The third category, and this one's kind of interesting, it has to do with language. It has to do with things that we do involving language and other ways of making a person feel uncomfortable. So we can call it language. We can say jokes. We can say leering and ogling. What's leering? So I see a woman and she walks by and I go, like that. That can be considered sexual harassment, Leering, ogling is kind of like a stare where a person might look at a person and stare at maybe their breast or stare at their crotch and make the person feel real uncomfortable. So leering, ogling, things like that would be considered sexual harassment. Also, the use of language might be considered sexual harassment. If I go up to this woman who's working to me and I say, F this, F that, screw this, and everything else, or use offensive language while talking about her, this might be considered sexual harassment in some cases as well. So we have the use of language, okay? It could be a joke. I could go up to my secretary and say a joke. Now, in some cases, we would argue that this may need to be repeated. In other words, if I used the word around somebody or made a joke and the person let me know, hey, I would rather you not do that, and I apologize, then depending on, I reckon, who interpreted this may or may not be considered sexual harassment. I once read about a case in, I think it was New York State, if I'm correct, where these guys hired a woman to work in like a stockbroker firm, a small firm, and she was the only female there. And what happened is these guys cursed all the time. They would go F this, F that, screw that, call a guy a bastard, somebody a bitch, and cursing was just their language. And this woman was offended by it because she hadn't been around people who talk like this. And I don't know the exact details, but it resulted eventually in her filing a lawsuit, a sexual harassment suit, saying that the use of language by these guys in the workplace made her feel very uncomfortable. They didn't stop doing it, I reckon, after she let them know. And so the question became, is this sexual harassment? And as I read the article several years ago, guess what was the ruling? So here we go. These guys that's the way they talk. They talk that way before the woman worked there. That's just the way they talk. They used F this and screw this and bitch and bastard and you name it, okay? And the woman says, look, this makes me uncomfortable. You won't stop it. It makes an uncomfortable workplace. I'm going to file a lawsuit. So what side would you take in this? Sexual harassment or not? What did the court rule? The court ruled that it was not sexual harassment. They said that there wasn't any intent on these men to make the person feel uncomfortable or to in any sort of sexual nature, that this language was just the way they talked. It was just their language. She might have found it offensive, apparently, but it was just the way they talked. The language itself, it wasn't directed in a sexual fashion or fashion meant to offend her. It was just how they expressed their feelings about their clients and the stock market. So interesting cases like that. So sexual harassment is a complicated issue. It's very complicated, and in some cases, to be fair, in some cases it is clear cut. But it's complicated in cases of using language when a person maybe hugs or touches a person, and then that person is offended. And there are also other issues that complicate it. And one of them is the fact that we have to realize that men can be sexually harassed too. In other words, men can be harassed by other men. Men can be harassed by women. Even though I would argue that as a conflict theorist, most sexual harassment is male to female because men have more power. And people in positions of power can sort of either intentionally or even unintentionally use that power to harass somebody else. So that's an issue. Now, another big issue is proving it, because very often what you get, unless it occurred and there were people there, is one person accuses another of sexual harassment and the person says, I didn't do it. And it's like one person's word against another. Who do you believe? And so this has been a big issue. We've had trials. Some of these people, as you know, have been put on trial. Bill Cosby was put on trial. Harvey Weinstein was put on trial. So we get the issue of proving it. And so, like, how do you prove it? And it's difficult, but there is one thing that I think is a key to thinking maybe there's some truth in it, and it does help prove it. And that is, have other people come out and said that person was harassing them. In other words, if many, many people start coming out saying, hey, this person that was accused of sexual harassment, they've harassed me too. And then other people come out. And I think this was the case, right, with Harvey Weinstein. I don't know the number, but I believe that many people, right, many females came out and made statements about Harvey Weinstein's behavior. So therefore, one way of, how can we say, proving or at least making it sure look like it's real sexual harassment is if we have other people who come forward. And so we need that to occur. So this is a short video on a very complicated and important subject called sexual harassment.